Today is February 2nd, and our readings invite us to look at how connection actually works in our bodies, in our minds, and in our relationships with others. Whether it's heart cells finding a shared rhythm, our thoughts being gently retrained, or belief systems telling us who we're supposed to be, the question is the same. Do these paths move us toward wholeness or away from it?
Hi, I'm Candy. I'm a hypnotherapist who's deconstructing from evangelical Christianity, and I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So, in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started.
For February 2nd, in the Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo talks about taking 2 heart cells. There's a particular type of heart cell. If you take 2 heart cells from 2 different individuals and you put them in a petri dish, they will eventually find and these are the types that they have an electrical pulse. Trying to understand the science behind it. But basically what he's saying is these 2 heart cells have their own beat, each have their own beat. And in time, they will find a third beat, not the first heart cell's beat and not the second cell's beat, but a third new beat that they will both sync to. So he kind of uses this to illustrate that we can find balance between opposing forces, opposing opinions, if we set our intentions on finding common ground. And nature shows us that through the heart cells, but all over in nature, we see that differences don't have to divide us. We can learn to live together, but it does take compromise. And I think in today's world, we're so focused on our differences that we don't even know. We just assume what people think because they have a label that has a lot of connotation attached to it. And we believe they are. I mean, I hear people calling people monsters. They call people pieces of shit. I don't like this kind of stuff because this is not helping us at all. And I understand there are some awful, god awful ideas that are hurtful and dangerous to certain people. And thinking that people are awful because they have them is not going to help. It's not going to make things better. Instead, it's going to make us treat them as less human. We need to stay curious in these areas as to how these ideas come about. In a lot of places, there's systems that are teaching it, that are perpetuating it, maybe not directly, but indirectly, and sometimes directly. And our awareness to this and our willingness to believe that we can learn to live together. There are things we agree on. And when we come from different worldviews, sometimes it's hard to see the other's point of view. In the first step, we have to be aware that this is happening, that we are seeing them through a filter that has been handed to us by media, by religion, by politicians, by many people. And then we need to be willing to do the hard work to see one another up close. Like, I remember as an evangelical Christian, I didn't hang around people who didn't think like me. I wasn't really allowed to at all. When I did, I felt this nagging sensation that I'm supposed to like preach at them, tell them about Jesus, because I genuinely believed that they were going to burn in a pit when they died. And I didn't know when that death would be. So if that were true, if it was true that there was a burning pit, then yes, I should be preaching something to them, like trying to warn them. It would be foolish if I didn't. And that's the thing. They genuinely believe that there is an eternal pit. There are a lot of them. There might be some who don't, but I would say that, I mean, there was a lot of people like me that genuinely believed it. And so we loved people. We didn't want them to hurt and suffer. But we were believing in a lie unknowingly. And the only way I could begin to have that cracked is first I had to become aware. Um, and that awareness comes by kind of being around other people, hearing their stories. And then all of a sudden, I have to start thinking. We have to remember that those in fundamentalist Christianity, their critical thinking skills are stunted and they're believing in lies. They are not evil people. They have believed lies. And they really believe them as truths. And so that causes them to act a certain way. So those of us who are more self-aware, we need to have this willingness that it's possible to reach these people. It's possible to come to compromise. And I'm not saying you have to compromise like people losing their rights or any of that. I'm saying let's start by stop calling people names. Stop degrading people's physical appearance. Just deal with the facts. This is unhealthy. This is hurting humanity. It hurts all of us, not just those you think it's hurting or you want to hurt or you think are wrong or sinful. It's hurting you too. It hurts a parent who believes that their child, if their child comes out as part of the LGBTQ community, let's say their child comes out to them, they feel this belief that they have to kick them out of their home because God doesn't, God wants, it'll push them to, agree with their idea of God, and then they'll, come to salvation because they literally think they're going to go burn in hell. And that scares the crap out of a parent. And so they will act in ways that are just unloving and unkind. And it hurts the parent to think this way. But because they believe it, they don't know any other way. They don't have the critical thinking skills and they don't have the awareness because they don't have the critical thinking skills. So I guess this is more of a challenge to those of us who have deconstructed or are deconstructing, or those who were never raised in some of this fundamental Christianity, though it comes from other places too. It's maybe a call out to us to be willing to see and remember where these people are coming from. Stop calling them names. I've been guilty of it too. And we begin to see them as humans that are like frightened because they have these fears of things and they don't want to bring the judgment of God because they have such a view of God that is so angry and vindictive, punitive. And as long as they have that, they're going to act in certain ways. So we have to continue to put out our voices to show that's not what the divine is like at all. And if it is, you wouldn't want to spend an eternity with it. So that's my challenge today. That's my thoughts on that one. I think I embellished a little bit on Mark Nepo. He wasn't going that direction, but it is pretty cool how nature kind of finds common ground, and we can do it too. For Jesus Calling, the message today is about how if you let your mind wander, it will tend to land on the negative, which is actually a truth. That's natural because in evolution, in order to survive, you needed to pay attention to where the predators were, where the sounds, all the things that were going to put you in harm's way. And so your brain became very alert to those things. So it does focus on that. And what Sarah Young says in Jesus Calling is that Jesus desires to transform our minds to not be that way. And so our job is to focus on his presence. And this will retrain our brains into new patterns. It will bring, she doesn't say patterns, but it'll bring in, that will keep our minds on peace, which will kind of retrain. So she kind of hints at you training your brain or transforming your brain or your mind, and Jesus doing it. So it looks like you have to do the training, but Jesus gets the credit for the transformation. I don't know. And I actually think the Bible There's a verse, I don't know who, it's probably Paul or something in the New Testament, says transform your mind. Um, so I kind of thought that we transformed our minds, not Jesus, but either way, the message of paying attention to what thoughts come in your head, you cannot control what thoughts come in, first of all, but you can control what you do with those thoughts. Do you play with it? Like, do you entertain the thought? Or do you go, yeah, I'm not going to entertain that one? And if it keeps recurring, maybe you have intrusive thoughts, you need to get some help. Because that happens sometimes, and it's nothing wrong with you. As your brain gets caught in these loops, and it can be reprogrammed. It's not by keeping your mind on Jesus all day long, but keeping your mind on the truth that you're connected will help. Connected to all, source, one another. That can bring you a sense of peace. When you zoom out, get the bigger picture, that helps. And also kind of knowing where some thoughts come from. There's a lot of things you can do to help ease like racing thoughts or minds that just are all over the place. I struggle with that too. I have ADHD, and I've learned how to pay attention to my body, because my body will kind of tell me first where my mind has been. And then I go, what have I been thinking about? And that kind of helps me work through some things. It's not, oh, think about Jesus, as is alluded to in this book, but it is, what's your body saying? That's how I would suggest you transform your mind. And in my utmost for his highest, the message today is that once you're saved, your job is to testify to the fact of your salvation. So basically, evangelize is how I take this. He also mentions that God created you as a vessel. So he uses you as a vessel to do one. You have one role. You're set apart for one purpose, and that is to testify to the world of him, which just sounds very egotistical, but in Christianity, we just believed this. I mean, I was born into it, so I don't really have any other options until I got old enough, but that's what you were taught. Your job is to tell others about Jesus. And you need to be aware of anything that distracts you from that call. You know, like wherever you work, whatever you do, you need to be testifying about Jesus. So these are 3 different things. This also, like, before I go sum it up, in Christianity, this just gives them, they're just like a one-track record, you know. It reminds me of like secular music. I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music when I was a kid. I was only allowed to listen to Christian music, and there was these things you could get that were like, if you like this secular music, you would like this, and it was a Christian band. So the Christian bands were just mimicking what the secular bands were doing and trying to come up with something similar sound, I don't know. And there's just no creativity because their only purpose is to talk about Jesus. So it just stifles creativity. It stifles that individual spark that you would bring into the world. And so I think something in deconstruction that we all discover is that we have to like find who we are, because we've just been, our whole our identity has been Christian first and foremost. So all 3 books, different messages. You know, one is that we can come to common ground if we're willing to. If we're aware that it's possible and we're willing to do it. The next book is basically about the transforming of your mind and how it transforms, she said, by focusing on Jesus. And I would recommend that you begin listening to your body. That will help you. It gives indication of where your mind has been. And then the third one is just your job as a Christian is, you know, once you have believed Jesus died on the cross for your sins, now you got to tell everybody about that. And that's why Christians are so hard to be around sometimes, because that's all they'll do, especially zealous Christians, right? I've been there. So anyways, that's your 3 books for today. Pick one, pick something else, but choose what will benefit not only you, but also you and the rest of the world. Have a great day.
Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.